All right.
Welcome.
Welcome. Everyone can hear us hopefully much better this time around. End of day one, we finally figured it out.
In fact, if you guys want to unmute and for the conversation, feel free.
This is a small group in this particular session. I don't know if we're waiting on it.
I don't think we're 59. We're early.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. There we go.
Oh, okay.
It might be good if, since it's a small group, if they could let us know what group organizations they're at.
Yeah, we were thinking of doing a short introduction if you want to unmute. And obviously, Gary, we have met, but maybe some of the other folks on the call haven't met you.
Gary Runheimer, Senior Project Engineer for the city. I'm the building guy for the city.
Thanks, Gary. We have Eric. Or Matthew then.
Matthew Falk, Director of Housing with the Burton Nash Community Mental Health Center.
Thanks, Matthew. And I'm Tony Kellum with Wendell.
I'm Taryn Murray with Wendell. We're both part of the architecture and engineering firm that is tasked with these projects. So we're part of that team. We have two other team members that are also working through some stakeholder meetings that aren't here with us at the moment. So we're obviously the ones hosting this event, hoping to hear feedback as far as it comes to this project. And we'll dive into that in a second, but it looks like we also have Felice.
Hey, I'm Felice Laverne. I'm with Lawrence Transit. I am their transit planner too.
Thanks, Felice. And Gabby.
Hey everyone, my name is Gabby Boyle. My pronouns are they, them. I'm the prevention specialist with the Sexual Trauma and Abuse Care Center. My Wi-Fi is kind of bad, so I'm keeping my camera off.
You sound good though. I mean, your audio is good. Eric.
Yeah, Eric.
Hi, my name is Eric Vaughn. I'm the Executive Director at Douglas County CASA. I'm sorry, I was having audio issues.
You get that?
Don't we know that?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Eric, what does your organization do?
Douglas County CASA, we're court-appointed special advocates.
Okay.
So we recruit and support volunteers to advocate for kids who are involved in the court system because of abuse and neglect.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you for that information. Yeah. All right. I think that's everybody that we have on the call. And then Anne is over there on the left, upper left for us anyway.
They said they could hear me through your mic, so I'm going to talk through your mic so we don't get feedback. But I'm Anne Frank Herzog. I work with Shockey Consulting in Kansas City. I also live at Lawrence, so I'm familiar with some of you guys already. I'm with my husband. I also publish the Lawrence Business Magazine, so I'm very familiar with Lawrence.
And Christina, you just joined the call?
She might be connecting.
Yeah,
There we are.
Christina, you just joined the call. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi there, my name is Christina Holt. I'm with the Center for Community Health and Development at the University of Kansas. Nice to be with you.
All right, thank you, Christina. And then Mary, you want to introduce yourself? I don't know if you heard me, Mary, you might have been connecting to audio. We were just doing brief introductions.
Okay, now I hear you. Glad to be here. So my name is Mary Kirkendall, and I'm here in Eudora. I'm the Eudora Community Navigator with the library and United Way.
Great.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I don't think we have had any other joiners. All right, so we'll jump right on. We're going to be throwing up a whiteboard. And while Anne is doing that, What we're doing is we're capturing all of this information in real time, and it's going to be part of our design report for the concept phases here. So just the first thing I'd like to do is just give you a little introduction to the project. Basically, there's really two distinct projects. Some of you are probably familiar with the 2018 bus transfer location study that was completed. There was downtown sites. There was a few sites out by Bob Billing on each side of the corner of Crestline. It's been decided in the joint agreement with the university to actually build the main multimodal center out there at the intersection of Bob Billings and Crestline near the campus. That changes a lot the scope of the downtown project. So you're going to have 10 bus slips and a few Greyhound intercity slips, maybe kiss and ride, taxi, Uber, a small parking lot, and some other things, passenger amenities, driver amenities for the bus operators. That's going to happen out at Crestline and Bob Billings. That's a substantial project. And then we have the downtown transfer center, which has about $1.5 million budgeted for it. We're looking at 5 bus slips, some passenger amenities for seating, waiting, that type of thing, ticketing, overhead canopy for weather and wind protection, those types of things. There are no designs that have been developed yet. We're just starting this process. So really the goal of this meeting is to hear your concerns on both the multimodal and the downtown transfer. What is your vision for them? What are the things that are most important to you for them? What things would you like to see? And before I open the floor, I'll just tell you, we've looked at 5 sites in downtown between 7th and 8th, 8th and 9th, and 9th and 10th Street on Vermont. And then we've also looked at 2 sites, one by the farmer's market on New Hampshire, and the other on the southern part of New Hampshire. Our goal, not actually our goal, our mission and our job was to develop a concept for 3 different sites in downtown. I think today we've already sort of narrowed that to 3 sites. And sites that we think can work. And we're going to, start working on those. But so we really don't have designs or concepts to show you yet. So with that, I just want to kind of open the floor and let you tell us what's important about public transit and these 2 projects in Lawrence. And I think we have a small enough group that if you want to just unmute yourself and chat with us, just maybe tell us who you are in case your picture's not on screen. That would be great.
I'm happy to go. In my role, I'm currently supporting the health equity report development for Douglas County and have been conducting a number of focus groups with different populations in the county, especially those who may feel marginalized or experience different health disparities. And I've also conducted focus groups for the community health assessment and community health improvement planning process, and for some local nonprofits, including Just Food. And I would say one theme that keeps coming up over and over again is just accessibility of, transportation being a hardship, accessibility, proximity to where people need to go for services. So I know there's some service providers on this conversation, which is great today, but especially I think we just need to keep in mind those who are, most burdened in the community and make sure that we're designing around their needs.
Right. I think one thing that we can share too is that there is also a route redesign study that's happening at the same time. And the studies to kind of inform each other, but I think maybe to actually a greater extent when we decide where the locations are going to be, what location it's going to be in downtown, that'll actually help, inform some of the route changes that are going to happen. Because there's going to need to be significant changes with the main transfer site moving to Bob Billings Parkway.
Yeah, to add a little bit to that from the Lawrence Transit side, I put a link in the chat, and that's where we'll be updating our public meeting links and things like that to let you know where to plug into the route redesign study. You can also email me. I'll put my email in there also. And our social media will have it, as well as probably some press releases as those public input opportunities for that study get closer.
Thank you. I don't actually see the link. If you don't mind trying to send that again.
It's also put it into
Oh, I see the chat didn't go away.
the chat is there.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
There we go. Yeah. So I think we have obviously a lot of focus on what this will do for the community, the interaction with the community. Part of what we're wanting to hear from you is what's important when we talk about this in Lawrence and what it does for its users and its actual community members. So when you think about downtown transfer or even the big multimodal that will be out in Bob Billings, what comes to mind as definite necessities or considerations that need to be included in order to make sure that everybody is considered with this project? And that's what we're hoping to hear from you, that what's important from that aspect.
Dana Ortiz from Family Promise of Lawrence. One thing that we constantly battle with the folks we serve is that their job is over here and their childcare is over here. And so if we could somehow loop those transportation requirements in the early hours of the day and the later hours after work, it would certainly make it easier to succeed in a job.
Yeah, you bring that up. That's a great example, Dana. I don't want to sidetrack our conversation, but we're working on a mini hub in Little Rock, Arkansas, where the transit agency actually purchased or is in the process of purchasing a vacant office building and parking lot and site, and they're going to reactivate that as a daycare center, a job workforce center, affordable housing, a mini bus hub with 5 stops, and it's really a bold vision. And I think we need to see more of that kind of thing.
Yeah, that would be remarkable.
And it's in a manufacturing area where there's a lot of jobs as well. So it makes sense for Little Rock.
But even so, that consideration of big picture is something, obviously, that's exactly the type of influence or feedback we're looking for, big picture thoughts.
And we talked earlier, I just want to share on the Bob Billings site, there's quite a bit of land out there. And so as we're laying this out and designing this, we're thinking in terms of what could maybe the bigger vision be for that site. It doesn't necessarily just need to be an intermodal, bus multimodal site. How could it be laid out where potentially other uses, complementary uses, retail, or whatever could be, activated out there with it to make it more of a destination? Matthew?
Well, if you could include childcare in a facility, that would be a huge plus, as well as housing. I think also coordinating, and I'm sure you already do this, but making sure that the routes are coordinated between the two, and so that people can transfer in a manner that's relatively close to whatever the main routes are that are going through there. So that people don't have long wet layovers, and also to minimize the amount of transfer that takes place. I would say for downtown, the location should be closest to the high utilization spots that exist right now, which are primarily like the library and, that's really going to be the main one in my estimation. But
yeah, we just actually got off the phone with Brad at the library, and we talked about with him the significance of the relationship that happens between the library and the users, where it's not just like, let's say, a homeless hangout. It actually is more of a culture where people are really hanging out there. So definitely realizing that strong connection was a huge learning curve for us as far as within your community. Absolutely.
The other thing to consider on the amenity side, especially if it's just kind of a transfer hub downtown, that in those shelters, if there's any capacity to provide heating in the winter and you know, some of those types of amenities.
Good point. Yeah.
We have done on-demand type temporary heat
Yeah.
in facilities for sure.
You know, another thing might be that there's kiosks that just have community information and service information and amenity information, like not only events and things like what's going around downtown, but like where you go to get food or, you know, just
Informational like Wayfair signage and
yeah, or a kiosk that you can actually have an electronic or whatever. I know that a screen that kind of has rotating information pages. I don't know, but
events maybe. Absolutely.
That's becoming a really common thing in major cities, and we see it. It's a great suggestion.
So this is Eric Vaughn with Douglas County CASA. So yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. One thing that's important for us would be making sure it's child friendly and safe for kids, especially kids that would be perhaps riding alone or just be, you know, well lit and close to place to go that's public. And then when take into mind and consideration, you know, family members and like single parents or single caregivers who may be traveling with multiple children. So making sure that there's comfortable space for kiddos to be and to play, and also to be observed. So make sure they can stay in line of sight and prevent people from abusing or neglecting kids. Those are probably the things that are most important to us. And as close as you know, something can be to the courthouse, the better, especially for families who are needing to go to court for various reasons.
Absolutely.
I suppose the library would be fairly close, but that's, yeah.
Yeah.
The courthouse is down the riverfront. Is that the courthouse? Or around
yeah. So the judicial center.
there. Yeah.
What was that, 10th?
There are two courthouses. There's municipal court, which is at the riverfront, and then the district court is down on 11th and New Hampshire.
Right. So being close to both of those, or just one or the other?
Well, those families would use those. Yeah.
They're both split. Like they're both on the opposite ends of downtown.
Yeah.
Right.
Has Lawrence ever had, Felice, any type of a downtown circulator? Like a trolley type circulator or anything like that?
For historically speaking, you mean?
In the history of the bus system?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm pretty new to the system.
Okay.
But that's something we're looking out for the route redesign study.
Yeah. Route that sort of functions in that capacity.
Sure. Yeah, we're definitely looking into that as an option. Yeah, and those particular points would be good to carry over into that discussion, because we can look at different stops and things like that in that conversation.
Yeah. And, you know, Taryn could probably speak to it. There's a whole body of design called CTPED, which is, or excuse me, CPTED. CPTED, Crime Prevention Through Environmental Design. So there's specific design techniques that she would use in designing the transfer center that address some of the things that Eric was talking about.
Yeah.
You know, places where somebody can hide or be hidden.
Yeah, that concept is something is huge for any sort of public environment. And basically the concept is utilizing design, whether it's the building, but also landscaping and lighting and technical support, whether it be camera visualizing, security presence, activity to show that the place is active and it's not something that would the chance of being seen would be likely. So we utilize a lot of these techniques to basically deter crime, increase the risk, increase the visibility, while being inviting to the legitimate user. So there's a wide variety of techniques, but just to give you like an example, the proper lighting so you can see somebody or the particular person approaching you from 30 feet away is actually ideal for identifying whether or not you want to continue on that path, if you want to take a different path, if you feel like the path ahead of you feels safe or you feel safe approaching who is in front of you or what is in front of you. So we look at a lot of these different techniques, and that will be part of our assessment and our design in this process.
Good.
This is Matt. In the downtown space, and I don't know to what extent you have some flexibility around the budget size, but it would be really great if you could have office space for social service providers so people could get off the bus and connect with services right there on the side. And that would really be the downtown location rather than out on the.
Right. Yeah. It's, obviously we haven't set the parameters for what's going to be happening here. That's, been done well ahead of us, but I think the opportunity for that is something that always should be looked at. We see it happen in some communities. Sometimes there's just not enough land and space to do it or the budget to do it. But we refer to that as transit-oriented development or TOD. And we did just that in Little Rock. We completed a study a year and a half ago. And that was also the thing that I was mentioning with the mini hub. But in their main downtown, they're attempting to build over the top of their current river center and activate housing, a workforce center there as well as food. It's a food desert there in the middle of Little Rock downtown of all places. And so there's, just a lot of different issues to balance.
I think the part of what we're looking for this, and we've talked actually about this being kind of the part that we build the stop itself, and then we provide the plan and the opportunity for that further development to be adjacent. Because like right now we're talking about parking lots, right? We're only going to use one strip of that parking lot. In reality, there should be more probably development in that parking lot or any of these parking lots, let's just say. And in that development, we're hoping that it spurs those types of connections because this is the downtown hub. And that's what we're looking for, is that master plan of those adjacencies and what can be spurred based on that location in relationship to the routes and the users and their destinations. Absolutely. I think the part is that this probably not this project. It's going to be something that gets spurred or is a jump off in the future, or let's say phase 2 of what this creates. We had a couple new attendees join us. Martha, Abigail, Kristen. Do you guys want to introduce yourself and maybe provide some input on what we've been talking about?
Sure. I'm Abigail with Catholic Charities. This sounds like an interesting program, and most of the things that were mentioned here really the most appropriate. The only other thing I might add is just to reduce the waiting time. I know for some folks it's like 30 minutes wait time So if they have an appointment with me here at Catholic Charities and they're coming from the other end of the town, they are waiting 30 minutes downtown to get to Catholic Charities. So if we can have that reduction in the wait time to maybe 15 minutes or even 10 minutes in perfect world.
Yeah, that's something that I know that Felice can take to the route redesign study. And since our study is focused more on infrastructure, we appreciate that. We'll make sure that gets to that other group. And I'm sure you'll probably have an opportunity to give input during that process over there as well. Did Christian or Martha have anything they wanted to talk about?
This is Marty, and I'm representing Lebuel, and I am just listening. I think we just wanted to be involved, and really one of our big priorities is ensuring that the reroutes are also access and crossover with food access points. And I know we'll get there at some point, so thank you for letting me listen in and be a part of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Again, I don't want to, what do they say, beat a dead horse, but this design group is tasked with designing the downtown transfer center as well as the Bob Billings Crestline multimodal center. So really nothing that we're doing impacts the routing, but that's another concurrent study that's going on right at the same time right now as ours. We're actually a little bit out in front of that study, to be honest. But they're kind of going to be concurrent here pretty soon as we move through the design process.
I think just kind of listening to what's been said and building on some of this also just in terms of like signage around the transfer facilities that's directing people towards them. I think it should be really clear, accessible for people who don't maybe have or who have limited reading or English proficiency, as well as folks who do not have access to like digital navigation, making sure that there's plenty of signage at both locations so that folks who are driving, biking, walking can get where they need to go safely and accessibly.
Thanks, Gabby. Yes, any facility that's going to be built at both locations is going to be fully ADA accessible. And there's going to be definitely a complete communications package at both locations that's going to address all those things that you're talking about. So thanks for bringing that up. That's definitely part of the core mission.
I apologize if this is self-evident, but it would be great if there could be like restrooms and, water available.
Yeah, we do know, Christina, that that amenity is going to be provided and is called for at the Bob Billings multimodal. The downtown hub, which is at most 5 bus slips, we don't want to minimize that location or say that it's less important because it's not. But it doesn't sound like, they've looked at different, and I don't want to get ahead of myself here. So Felice, as I said to Adam on the last meeting, or maybe it was 2 meetings ago, correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, but I know we're looking at options for restrooms in the downtown, whether or not the program and the space can actually accommodate restrooms in downtown, because it's not going to be staffed.
Yeah, that was also the major concern, is that providing a location that wouldn't be staffed and the problems that might go along with that. So we don't want to give the framework for that unless it could be a safe and proper used environment as well. So it's definitely a discussion point is how to actually be able to do that, but also do it in a realistic and safe, functional manner.
Yeah. In the community that I came from, I worked for a bus system for 30 years in central Minnesota. And we were in a similar situation for about 15 years where we operated on a street corner with 16 routes, 8 on each street. And people ran quite a long distance along the city sidewalks back and forth trying to find their bus. And it was a pretty miserable situation for many years. But one of the things that developed out of that is the downtown business community. I'll just be brutally honest. We're tired of people asking to use their restrooms. So the parking service and the city downtown was actually called the Downtown Council, which is a private nonprofit. They actually came up with some money and got behind a project to build a public restroom to serve not just the bus people, as they would call it, but to serve the entire downtown shopping community, because it isn't just the bus patrons that are downtown that might need to use a restroom. And what was built was, we keep going dark here, it might be too late in the day, but what was actually built was a fairly nice open restrooms in the downtown area. And then as a bus system, we chose to take care of maintaining it because we had a lot of our folks that were using it, but it was right in the hut, right in the center of downtown. So thinking outside of the box, maybe that's something that folks could get behind as well. Maybe there's a space somewhere in downtown that could accommodate something like that could serve more of a purpose for not just the folks that are using that transfer center, but shoppers and people in general that are downtown, and do it in such a way that it's safe.
Well, yeah, you'd have a large user group if you have that farmer's market that's looking for a permanent location.
Right.
Even more so of a tie with that initiative and where they end up.
Yeah. So, putting a different spin on a common problem. But thanks for bringing that up, Christina. It's true. But right now we don't know if that would be accommodated in the downtown.
As you talk about signage, it would be useful, and I've seen this done other places where not only on the bus, but on the individual waiting spots where a given bus is going to pull in at, that they list, and they not only list, but they show which line and which number is coming in next, right? That's clear, right? So I know, for example, downtown, buses get stacked up, lined up against each other. And if you're on one end, you can't see the numbers that are way on the other end. And you don't know necessarily which bus is going to be pulling up to which shelter. So anything that might be able to help indicate which bus is arriving at which stall.
Absolutely. And that's actually part of the why the number of buses has been developed, because they're looking to do something that's more of a fixed slip assignment. So basically the same bus goes to the same slip every time. It alleviates that guessing for the users. So it's definitely been part of, again, that route optimization that police is working on. And we know that in this particular project that is the intent, that these will be assigned slips in both of these locations to help with that.
We also plan to have real-time signage, kind of what you would see at a train station, that'll tell you like above, where you're pulling in, where you're looking for.
Waiting time, yeah, that kind of thing.
It should give you all that information as well. We plan to have that at both facilities.
So is there any other, and again, it could be big picture, other thoughts, even as far as community, what the community might appreciate as far as even the vision or the look, or even some homage to Lawrence that maybe from a physical perspective you feel like the community might want to see or appreciate? Is there any thoughts on that? Maybe a feature, or outside of it being what the stop that it is there anything that you think that the community would really like to see as part of that?
A place for live music.
There you go. I would love live music.
Who was that one with the live music? Matthew.
Okay. That's great.
Where would we, actually we designed a multimodal in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we put a small stage in a corner and they do live music there. our other architect who's in the other meeting, Scott Neal, was actually the designer of that one, and we talk about that from time to time.
I'm sure you all have heard this, but we take great pride in, having been a free state and that history.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Any other cultural influences that you feel would be appropriate to make sure is considered or included in either of these sites?
I'm still trying to figure out the rock chalk thing. I haven't figured that out yet. We'll get it later.
The city logo is a phoenix rising from the flame from when Quantrell burned Lawrence, but I don't know if that would really need to be anything or how you would incorporate that.
Yeah. Well, there is a public art element to the intramodal, multimodal, and I believe $80,000 is the budget for that. And that's a kind of a specific designated amount that has to do with Federal Transit Administration. I believe I'm saying that correctly. But so that's something that we're gonna, is gonna be a consideration. So we're all ears. Obviously, we're gonna do our research as well, but we hope to engage the cultural and arts community as well. I think that group is coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, so we don't know what the public art looks like as far as what it will be, but there will be a public art element, absolutely.
On the multimodal.
Yeah.
Make sure to connect with Van Gogh when you do work on that, so they can engage the youth.
Oh, okay. It's a youth art center here?
Yeah, we've got a contact. We work with them. They're actually putting up some cool vinyl bus stop art today at 7 locations. So if you see some.
When you said Van Gogh, I was thinking he had some relatives living here or something.
No, it's a really cool organization.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome.
I'm at both spots. If it's like device charging capacity, like plug it in your plug it in stuff.
That's actually a really good point.
That hasn't come up yet today. I'm surprised. Thank you.
Actually a really good point. Something that easily get overlooked.
Yeah.
Well,
But
okay.
so needed.
By device, you're not meaning vehicles, right?
Well, actually, now that you mention it, Gary, there is some consideration for potential electric car charging.
At Billings, Bob Billings.
At Bob Billings, yes.
And we're also going to allow for future flexibility of buses, but yeah, I was just trying to clarify what charging of what.
Yeah, and cell phones, laptops, iPads, that type of thing. I don't know what's, a lot of the groups haven't really talked too much about sustainability, but is there anything that comes to your mind, whether it be solar, wind, just any of those? Seems to be windy here in Lawrence, I've noticed.
I've tried a LEED facility. It was a multimodal facility in Illinois, and wind just wasn't an option in a downtown environment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've definitely talked about addressing the wind at both locations with potential screening, design elements of that nature. That's going to be huge.
I was referring more to wind generation.
Oh, wind generation. Okay, from sustainability factor. Okay.
There are actually some aesthetically pleasing wind options that you might not know about.
Okay, that's a good point.
That you would never know that there's a wind generator.
Yeah, there's some pole devices that I've seen that they just kind of vibrate as a pole and they create wind generated electricity.
Yeah, and maybe something's developed within the last several years, but we were looking to do it on top of a parking garage.
Uh-huh.
And that they wouldn't, at least at that time, they wouldn't generate much.
Right. Too bad we don't live over in Dodge City. I've heard it's windy over there.
Yes, it is.
Well, we have
Green
plenty more.
infrastructure is part of the scope of the Bob Billings site for sure. So we're looking into that aspect of sustainability as well. And I know it was mentioned on another call that KU does have to meet a certain amount of water storage or control or retention requirements, so that'll be considered.
The city has a requirement, and I found that out over the break. It's 1.8 cubic feet per second per acre is the maximum amount of drainage that they can drain on this from KU campus on the city property.
What is that amount?
1.8 cubic feet per second per acre.
We're saving electricity over here by turning the lights off every 7 minutes. And now, you think the computer would have been smart enough to figure out we're in here by now, but. Okay, so we do have more time. We're not rushed, but if we want to wrap up, we can, but we're willing to stay as long as you need us to. We've got 20 more minutes if there's any more. And even when we're done today, if there are other things that you want to add, in the appointment that you received, you should have an email for Anne Frame Herzog. Do not hesitate. If you have other things you're like, oh, I should have said that. Or yeah, and we'll make sure it gets onto this document. This is kind of our live capture document for capturing the ideas from all of the meetings. That's why every comment that comes up, we're getting a sticky note in here. So anybody else have anything they want to share? And again, Anne's email is in the chat if you want to grab it, if you think you would need it for future follow-up. Going once, going twice. I know my auctioneer, but
It's the end of the day.
It's the end of the day.
No, we appreciate the feedback. Actually, a lot of points were very valuable. We'll definitely be using this in the next couple of days to help us produce the concept designs for both the multimodal and the downtown transfer sites. So we're going to take all the information from the different groups, obviously try to accommodate as much as we can within the bounds of what we're given as far as land. And then we're hoping to present a very
and budget.
Yeah, and budget. Happy result for everybody. And we're doing that when
we actually some of the city and public transit staff will get the first look at it in meetings this week. But the opportunity for everybody in the general public at large is going to be probably sometime in early June. Mm-hmm. We're going to come back with the 3 options for Bob Billings and the 3 individual options from downtown, including some recommended options that'll be a result of the some of the steering committees that oversee public transit, city government, and so forth. And then that recommendation will go to the city commission for both of the projects. That's the plan. The plan is hopefully to have the design done by the fall and bidding done in the end of the year and construction starting early in 2022. All things, if they move perfectly, a project open by the fall or winter of 2022.
For Bob Billings.
Excuse me?
For Bob Billings. I'm not sure if they also includes.
Yeah, actually both projects are theoretically going to run concurrently if that can happen for downtown and Bob Billings. At least that's the way the RFP mission reads. But so again, feel free to send comments at any point. Information will keep getting provided on that website, I believe, as we know more. Adam and Felice from his staff will be sharing information on the route redesign, I believe, as well as this project as things progress. So, and then just so you know, I know you folks, many of you on this call are public advocates and, very important, doing a lot of important work in the community. And so one of the things that we're doing on this first time in town is we're holding 2 public at-large meetings. So just like we're doing here today, Wednesday afternoon, we're doing an 1.5-hour public meeting.
Maybe include the times for those in the chat.
And if you have, people that you work with or that you see, if there's a way that you can communicate that. I know we've done some of that already, potentially. They can join the public meeting during the day. And then there's also one Wednesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. That they can register for in person, or they can join electronically if they have that capability through Zoom. So that's in the chat box as well if you want to share that with anybody. So with that, I think we're good. We'll leave the session up here for a couple of minutes yet as we're ending in case somebody wants to copy anything out of that chat. But anybody else have anything they want to share just for the good of the group before we wrap it up? If not, it was great meeting you in the new COVID world. And we look forward to coming back to the community again and maybe seeing you again at a public meeting as we get a little farther along with design. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay.